Welcome everyone to the first webinar for Webex for Developers for January 2025. Today we've got an exciting look back at 2024 from our key platform advancements. Our host today will be Phil Belanti. I am Adam Weeks. I'm the manager of Webex Developer Evangelism, and here to just introduce you to a few things. I'm going to go over some news that we've got and then pass you over to Phil. Before we get started, we do have our Slido open on the embedded app on the webinar. If you're joined from a device, feel free to scan the QR code on the screen and join in on the, we've got some polls and Q&A at the end, but you can use your phone to scan in and be able to participate as well on the Slido. With that, can we go to the next slide? Kick it over into the news. Some news and updates for January. This webinar will be a look back at 2024, but we got some exciting news for January 2025. First off is that we've got a few new features in our Webex Developer Beta. Highly encourage you to sign up for that. It's open to all of our customers and partners and internal Cisco employees as well to test out some of our developer products that are coming along. We have 2 in process right now with another one coming up hopefully next week. The first one being our click to call developer beta. So this is a feature for Webex calling developers that allows you to embed a guest call into your web application. So if you want to be able to have a guest reach out to a Webex extension from within without having to install a client or dial anything from a phone, this is the feature for you to try out. We showed off this feature at Webex 1. Is highly popular, and now everybody's developers are able to get their hands on it, try it out. The next feature we've got in the developer beta is the Webex AI Assistant for developers. So this is our new AI assistant that helps you navigate the developer portal as well as writing some code for you. So we've got an AI assistant that can help you find the right documentation that you're looking for on the developer side and get started coding as well. So you can ask it to do some tasks for you to get started with your programming. You can use that AI assistant and it'll generate some code to get you started. What's really exciting about that is it has internal knowledge of all of our APIs. So it's a bit more powerful than just a regular LLM that scrapes the web. We've given it some backend information, so it's really exciting to use, and we want to get your feedback on it to make sure that it's the best possible for when it releases soon. So be sure to sign up on the Webex Developer Beta. I've got the URL there on the slide at the bottom, cs.co/Webex Developer Beta. That will take you to the sign in and sign up page, and you can get started on that. Excuse me. Also, we've got quite a few blogs that have been released in the past month, and we'd like to point out to you. The first one being the how to create your own RSS feed parser bot. So that was actually written by our one of our Webex developer support engineers, the Rafael Lagana. So he, with our RSS feed bots, we've had some of our bots being decommissioned, but we're passing off the code and the documentation to you. So if you wanted to spin up your own instance of some of these bots, we're giving them to you here. We've got a few more that have been announced, an end of life announcement that you can expect to see some more content on that as well. But this is one of our most popular ones that people are taking and building and customizing this to their own liking. The next one is kind of an internal look written by our documentation manager, John Francis. This is using AI to generate and refine Webex GitHub sample documentation. So in this blog, John goes through and talks to you and shows you his workflow and how he goes through about sample code and how he goes about documenting it and using ChatGPT and other LLMs to kind of build some more information around that code base and improve it. It's a neat read, and it's a good behind the scenes look at how some of the documentation is being generated. Next up is a blog that actually I authored called Using the New HTTP Connector for Webex Contact Center APIs. Really excited about this feature. This is one of my favorite features of 2024 from coming out of Webex Contact Center. This will allow you to natively connect to Webex Contact Center APIs from within Webex Flow Builder. So we're really excited about seeing that that feature. Check out that blog, especially if you're a contact center developer using those APIs within flows. It makes life much easier for you. You don't have to manage tokens and refresh tokens and all of that on a separate server. We handle it all for you directly within Flow Builder. And finally, we have a blog about that click-to-call developer feature that's called Power Your Customer Experience Using the Webex Click-to-Call feature. That was written by Adwaith Menon, and he's the product manager for that feature, kind of giving you an overview of it. So you can take a look at it, some more information about the feature while it's in beta, and then switch over to the beta and test it out. So that's our updates for that. Phil, if you go to the next slide for me. Also wanted to call out, so next month we will be at Cisco Live Amsterdam, our team here, as well as quite a few other Webex developer folks. We do have a couple of activities going on at Cisco Live Amsterdam. Do want to call out ciscolive.com. Go out and register for it if you have not already. If you have registered, here's some of the things to take a look for in your session builder. So we have a few different sessions and workshops. Some of the sessions we have are around the contact center, flow designer, AI innovations with Cisco Webex. We've got a good walkthrough from one of our developer evangelists, Joe Zanini, with OAuth 2 authorization. So you learn a little bit about OAuth 2 and how to implement it with our Webex APIs. We also have Phil doing a talk about what's new on our Webex platform APIs. And then we also have a new session for our Cisco U folks that want to learn about how you can extend and develop on Webex Contact Center with Webex. Also, if you want to get your hands on some of these things while you're at Cisco Live, we've got 4 different workshops you can try out. The first one being a brand new workshop that introduces get your hands on a new feature that's called the Webex guest-to-guest platform. So you can try out those guest-to-guest meeting utensils. And then we also have the ever popular Build a Bot with Webex. This is the Build a Bot workshop that's very popular. I think it might be full, but you can definitely get on a wait list or mark it as a favorite so you can try it out. But that's always a good session for you to get your hands on Webex bot building. And then also, if you're looking at building Webex embedded apps, so like within this webinar, we've got our Slido on the side. That is actually a Webex embedded app. You can build your own applications directly in the Webex sidebar on meetings and the messaging clients. This will get your hands in and actually building it and showing you how to go about building an embedded app. That's a fun workshop as well. And then finally, another new feature that's quickly growing in popularity is our Webex service apps. Phil's going to be talking to you about that in a little bit, but we do have this workshop that's talking about deploying Webex service apps. So you'll be able to see what a Webex service app is, try it out on the admin side, and actually get those things deployed. Oh, I did skip over the booths. We do have 2 booths in the Webex developer and the Webex area underneath the World of Solutions. We have our open ecosystem integration. So that's where you can check out some of our apps from the Webex App Hub. And then we also have our Webex for developers, and we're showcasing a cool flow between Instant Connect and Webex Connect and Webex Contact Center. So and Webex messaging actually. So we're going to show you the power of all the platform being put into use. One thing that's not on the slide is on Wednesday of Cisco Live, we are going to be having a DevNet takeover. So the Webex developers is going to take over the DevNet zone. We've got a lot of these sessions are happening on Wednesday. We also have a booth that we're going to showcase our Webex AI assistant there. So you want to show up and try it out, feel free. And with that, I think we have our first Slido poll. We're going to kick off. You should have the Slido over on the side. If you don't see it, you can click on the little Slido button at the bottom or scan the QR code if you didn't earlier. So we just want to ask, we want to find out about, what is your experience level with the Webex developer platform? So we can kind of gauge on how deep we should go into some of these topics that we're going to be covering and going over. Looks like we got quite a few beginners. That's exciting to see. Some people just getting into the platform, creating some bots and integrations are climbing up here. That's good. Bill, you tweaking your presentation behind the scenes right now?
Yeah. I'm adding a whole bunch more dialogue.
Oh yeah, this is great. We love seeing new folks here. Yeah, so we happy to see some beginners coming in to really learn about the Webex developer platform. All right, I think we are good.
All right.
I'll pass it over to you, Phil.
That's great. Thank you so much, Adam. And thank you everybody for joining today. So again, I'm Phil Belanti. I'm one of the Webex developer evangelists. I'm happy to bring you this presentation today. A lot of the content for this presentation is going to be, for my What's New session over in Cisco Live. So this has let me do a nice little dry run in the beginning. So thank you for that too. But this is all about, kicking off 2025 with kind of a look back, a little retrospective of all the, or some of the cool things that we've seen over the past year. I'm not going to get too much into, or I'm not really going to get into all the contact center, because that would be more of like a 4-hour session, to talk about all the things that they've done over the year. So I'm going to be talking about the Webex suite and the traditional Webex platform. So just just a quick introduction. We'll talk about the Webex API updates. We'll talk about SDK updates, and then other various Webex developer updates. So there's a bunch of them. But really, in a nutshell, the Webex platform just keeps on growing. We've seen a ton of additions over the past year. We've introduced a range of new features and tools. These are really always to empower developers to build better and more intuitive integrations into Webex. So improved API capabilities, enhanced SDKs. The updates are really all about giving developers flexibility and power that they need to create innovative solutions, drive productivity and teamwork. That's what it's all about. But today we're going to explore how these options and how these updates not only streamline development for integrations, but it opens up some new possibilities for automating, optimizing collaboration across workflows. So additionally, we have expanded documentation, guides, other developer resources to make it easier to get started and implement these new features, quickly. So let's dive in, take a closer look on how Webex is making better than ever for developers, so they can start building impactful integrations. We want to elevate all types of collaboration experiences. So here we go. So the first set of updates, as I mentioned before, is I want to focus on probably, well, I would say the biggest strength of the Webex platform, in my eyes anyways. That's our robust collection of APIs. These are the essential building blocks for creating integrations, and we aim for them to be the best in the business. So just to kind of level set real quick, on the APIs of the Webex platform, this slide encapsulates many of the popular sets of Webex APIs that integration applications can utilize. But as you can see, integrations can leverage APIs, that automate the management of meetings, recordings, devices, calls, locations. That includes both user level actions and administrator actions, compliance actions. But the administrator actions, those are the ones that are normally done in Control Hub. So we've got a lot of velocity on that side. But keep in mind in this slide that this isn't listing like the actual endpoints, but rather groups of APIs. Some of these groups contain 5, 10, 20 endpoints inside there with very specific functions. But the bottom line, Webex platform has an extremely rich set of APIs. It gives developers a lot of flexibility. So let's start with the calling APIs. They've been releasing updates like crazy over the past few years. I'm going to cover some of the great updates that we've seen in 2024. There's a bunch here. Bear with me. So let's start here on the first bullet. Where we've added the ability to add and manage virtual lines. The devices on these virtual lines, the numbers of virtual lines, directory searches, all through APIs. So just in Webex, calling a virtual line, so that's a feature that allows users to have multiple phone lines assigned to one single device or one user profile. So this is useful for individuals. They have to manage multiple phone numbers or roles within the organization, such as support representatives or sales professionals. And then the second bullet point, there's also a new API to configure a subset of virtual line call settings. So that's the virtual line caller ID, call forwarding, call waiting, incoming permissions, outgoing call permissions, and call intercept. And the third one, this is called DECT Devices APIs, DECT, and that is Digital Enhanced Cordless Telecommunications. So I don't know if anybody's ever heard of DECT before, but this is a wireless standard for cordless phones, and it originated in Europe. There's been a variety of new endpoints added to the DECT Devices Settings APIs. That's to manage and configure such things as DECT networks, the base stations, handsets, associations, that can all be automated now with APIs. And the fourth one there, we've added a new device configurations API, and these provide the ability to configure line settings per device. They can also retrieve details, they can update compression settings, rebuild phones, retrieve device IP addresses. So these are the kind of settings that are particularly tedious and prone to mistakes, when you're entering them manually inside of Control Hub. So these APIs can streamline these bulk actions. And then the fifth one, we've added multiple API endpoints to enable the management of professional workspace call settings. That's been in very high demand for many of our customers or partners to be able to do more inside of workspaces, more automation inside there. So the workspaces APIs continue to get more robust. And then the next one there, the device API for calling, and that's just been updated mostly for improved consistency and usability. Not a lot of crazy enhancements there, except it's just going to be working better. And then in the last bullet, there are also new APIs for better PSTN management, or phone number or PSTN provider management, such as the new endpoint, and it gives the ability to retrieve and select cloud-connected PSTN providers for a given location. I think that's CCPP, it's noted as the acronym. But you can stay up to date with the changes to the calling APIs. We have a special page for it right on our developer portal. So it's called "What's New in Webex Calling." It's a little kind of a subset of a change log. For people who are focused on Webex calling integrations. But the last thing here under enhanced call reporting, I'm just going to call out some really nice improvements that's been made to the detailed call history API, which was already robust to begin with. It's a great endpoint, and it provides detailed call records as soon as 5 minutes after a call completes. So people can start building their call records or start doing their billing immediately. Again, about 5 minutes afterwards. So some helpful new fields have been added to the response body inside of that API, and that's really to better identify PSTN provider details. So let's move on to a very exciting update, and it's called the Converged Recordings feature for Webex calling. So this update, as part of the update, it enables WebEx calling organizations to select WebEx as their call recording provider, instead of a third-party recording provider. So if you look on like the far right here, up on top of that screenshot that's showing a control hub, normally, or even before this, you would have to select like a third-party partner that's going to do the recording for you. And then also they do their own management portal for those recordings. So now we're giving people the option to take control of their own recordings. They can select WebEx as the recording provider. And the reason it's referred to as converged recordings is it because it leverages the same mechanism used for recording in WebEx meetings. So as you can imagine, this is a more unified approach so that ensures consistency, reliability across products, but it also gives you more control inside the organization for managing your own recordings. And the way you can manage it is due to a new set of APIs, and this allows for the management of those converged recordings. So these APIs give developers control over how recordings are accessed, how they're stored and utilized, again, in a very flexible way. Organizations now have a cohesive in-house recording solution to simplify administration, as well as create custom compliance and data management solutions with these recordings. So phase 1 of the converged recording APIs is already available today. And that's going to allow administrators and compliance officers to access and manage call recordings in their org. Phase 2 of the API is coming soon, perhaps within the next few weeks. And that'll provide the same ability at the user level. So stay tuned for more announcements on that topic soon. I've got a blog going about that too.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the sign up for the developer beta.
Yep,
Intent.
it's there. Intent. So now we're gonna cross over to the meetings side of things on the meetings platform. There's been numerous updates that appeared on the API changelog. If you take a look at that, most of them are minor changes that focus on finalizing feature parity with the now end-of-life XML APIs. But I do want to highlight a few of the interesting updates that were recently made to the meetings APIs. But first is the meeting hosts can now create a meeting or patch a meeting or update a meeting with watermark settings. So you can just specify one of those parameters: enabled audio watermark, enabled visual watermark, or visual watermark opacity attributes. So these attributes can be returned when you get a meeting, list a meeting, or list a meeting series too. So you can get those same things. But essentially, when a meeting has audio watermarks, admins can upload that audio recording to Control Hub, and then it'll analyze the recording and it'll look up for those unique identifiers inside them. But the visual watermarks, that's the one that superimposes like a watermark image right over the video and whatever shared content you have too. So each meeting participant sees the watermark image with their own in a HUD, like their own email address on there too. But if a meeting participant isn't signed into WebEx, the watermark includes their display name and their email address. But users can adjust the watermark opacity so the pattern isn't visible, but doesn't cause too much distraction. And then next is the enhanced scheduling options API. That now allows a delegate user to obtain scheduling permissions for another user. So, for example, an executive assistant can be assigned as a delegate for a senior manager. Perhaps they're in charge of scheduling their meetings or managing their calendar. So as part of this API set is the delegate emails API, and to allow users to manage their list of delegate email addresses. So maybe they have more than one. And then the last item here is for new attributes that are returned in the get meeting, list meetings, and the list of meeting series APIs. These attributes are for retrieving data after a meeting is ended, such as registrations, particularly in webinars, post-event surveys for webinars, breakout session statistics, and a join participants list. So lots of good stuff that you can get post-meeting now. There's been some other recent organizational API updates worth mentioning too. These are all at the administrator level, so these are to further automate tasks that are manually done inside of Control Hub. First is the identity organization APIs, and that allows admins to retrieve and update organization names and other data. It provides admins with another layer of automation when there are org name changes. Also, the reassign recording API, that automates the reassignment of recordings to a different user. So for example, this could be used by an integration for a team that runs a recording meeting series with multiple hosts. The API can reassign the recording to a designated team member that manages all the recordings. And then, for more information around the API changes throughout history, up until the present, be sure to check out our changelog page on our developer portal. I don't know, Adam, if you want to throw the link in there for that.
Yeah, will do.
Thank y'all. All right, on to the next section. In this section, we're going to talk about some of the big updates made to our SDKs, or software development kits. And the SDKs are what helps developers streamline our API operations and also allow Webex to be embedded inside of third-party apps. So the first big update is that all of the Webex meeting SDKs now run on the new Webex Meeting Suite platform. So the main benefit of this update, I think, is just a vastly improved user experience, particularly for participants that are joining meetings from any Webex app, whether it's the browser, an Apple device, or an Android device. This new platform also has enhanced security, with meeting passwords now mandatory for non-invited guests. But for the developer, this update introduces the unified meeting objects, and that stays aligned, or trying to stay aligned, with the concept of space meetings. So this means that when the steps that you need to do to move to this to the new meeting platform, if you've already built one on the space meeting platform, should be similar. It's so the API calls have been revised for starting and joining meetings, so they're a little bit different now. So now that requires the creation of meetings through the Meetings API, even for meetings that are associated with spaces. But one of our support engineers, Raphael, did the RSS feed blog that Adam mentioned earlier. He did a great blog on this topic. So if you want to see some of the changes that you need to make around SDK applications, you can find that on our blogs page on our developer portal. But otherwise, the SDKs that had some of the most impactful updates over the last year were the web SDKs, also known as the JavaScript SDKs. So these are for embedding WebEx inside of web applications. And then also we have the mobile SDKs for iOS and Android, and that's for embedding WebEx functionality inside of mobile applications. So these SDKs power applications for use cases such as virtual courtrooms, telehealth consultations, remote learning, things like that. So the rest of this section is going to focus on the updates for these specific SDKs. So starting with our Web Meetings SDK, and that's dedicated to meetings-only use cases. We've introduced some great new features in version 3. First of which is we introduced stream classes. And this is to better manage media streams for cameras, microphones, and displays. This also allows for consistent handling of different media types, and that's all done within a single object structure. There's another related update on the next slide that I'm going to talk about that's kind of related to these streams. So I'll get to that in the next slide. But next on this slide is we now have background noise reduction and virtual background effects available in the WebEx inside the Web Meetings SDK. So These are very popular AI features of the Webex app. They're now inside of the SDK, so we're very happy to bring them in. I know it'd be very helpful, for example, in like a telehealth app. Perhaps it's being used by a doctor inside of like a noisy hospital environment. So now they can appear as they're taking the meeting, from their office or the comfort of their own home, without no background noise. They can put a virtual background on, and nobody will know the otherwise. And then there's also the transcription feature that was available inside of the Webex app. It's now inside the Meetings SDK. This can be leveraged for live real-time transcription, perhaps do some, closed captioning. The transcriptions are also available in multiple languages, and that can be used for live and post-meeting translations. So that opens up some pretty cool use cases there. And these are all in version 3 of the Web Meetings SDK. Oh, where are my pictures? Oh, they're there. Okay, I don't know why they're animated, but one of the biggest updates to the Web Meetings SDK that came in 2024 is the multi-stream feature. And that allows SDK apps to receive concurrent media streams for customized layouts, of the video. So this feature, I think, has been super high demand from our developer community. So we were really excited to finally get it released. The Web SDK team did a really great webinar on this topic a few months ago. The recording is available to watch on our developer portal, which I'll mention again at the end. But just here on the left, that's the kind of illustrates the standard transcoded stream. That was the only type previously available. You get one stream that it was like a single stream that essentially stitches all of the media stream into one fixed layout. You really couldn't do anything with it. But the new multi-stream feature enables custom layout options, that designed by the developer. So, for example, in a virtual classroom, where each student's video is permanently assigned to a particular location on the screen. I know where all my students are as the teacher. So now anytime I go to call on somebody, I know where they are on the screen. And then I can put as the teacher's video much larger, right in the middle of the screen. So again, it could be more of like a typical classroom layout. But again, this gives developers a lot more flexibility for designing their SDK built apps. We were also thrilled to unveil our new web calling SDK, and this was probably a few months ago. We did general availability on this, and that's a very robust toolkit designed for developers looking to integrate Webex calling features into their web applications. Past versions of the Web SDK required calling developers to cross-launch Webex to direct their users from their own applications when a user had to place or answer calls. So obviously that's not the best user experience, users needing to manually navigate back to their original applications during or when the call was completed. So again, that's kind of a disjointed experience when a user's attention is moved away from the main application that they were using. Users were also tied to a particular platform. So developers had to add extra logic to support every platform, such as Android, iOS, Windows, and Mac. And there was absolutely no options for Linux or Chromebooks. But the new web calling SDK leverages WebRTC, and that allows developers to integrate some world-class calling experience right into web applications that can be accessed ubiquitously via any platform. Their WebRTC is available on all those. There's also a public kitchen sink demo application available for this SDK. It demonstrates all the essential developer methods to quickly get familiarized. So that's a great place to start. But we were really excited about this SDK. They did a good job on it. Okay, and lastly, in this section, are updates for the Webex mobile SDKs for iOS and Android. And this is the recently released in the 3.1x versioning. So both iOS and Android SDKs now allow a meeting to seamlessly be moved from one client to another, which is very helpful. So, like, for example, maybe you have a field worker that's in a meeting that started on a, inside of an office at a desktop. That meeting can still be ongoing and then moved to a mobile device, perhaps as they're dispatched to a new location. There's also new methods that enhance receiver side audio quality for Webex and PSTN. So this new feature results in a better overall experience for Webex calling users when talking to non-Webex users. And for updates exclusive to the iOS SDK, there's now support for USB cameras connected to iPads. So there's been some remote workers that do much of their communications over an iPad, and now they can connect cameras inside of facilities anywhere right to their iPad, and it's now supported inside of the mobile SDK. And then additionally, there's also an iOS kitchen sink application, and that's been updated with Swift UI, and that's Apple's latest framework for declarative UI structure design. So Swift UI benefits iOS developers with enhanced performance, fewer lines of code to write, and consistency across all Apple devices. It even has a live preview option. You can immediately see the effects of your code changes. So really nice improvements there for sure. So in our final section here, we're going to cover all the other important developer updates that are in categories maybe of their own. There's a bunch of things to mention here, so let's just jump right to it. So I think Adam kind of alluded to this in the beginning, towards the beginning of 2024, we introduced Webex service apps. Those are machine accounts that are allowed by administrators that are meant for like mission critical applications. Service apps become associated with a Webex organization and not to like individual administrators or individual users, like an integration would be. So they're a very different application type in that regard. Service apps are ideal for trusted Webex applications that run on a long-term basis within an organization. Things like active reporting, automated provisioning, compliance services, things like that. So this essentially decouples integrations from individual users. That's like the main part of it. So individual users come and go. They may leave the company, and perhaps if they deauthorized now and they left. Maybe your reporting app no longer works. So this kind of just takes it away from the user and puts it at the organizational level. So with these types of applications can still continue to run as a service app, independent of any user. And we've recently added a new webhook for service app authorization. So again, as a developer, if I'm building a service app, after it's done, I have to actually submit it to the administrator of my organization, and they're the only ones that can actually allow it to run. Now, before you kind of had to just wait for that administrator to contact you, but now as soon as it's authorized, you can receive a webhook event. So in that webhook event, what's going to fire whenever one of the service apps that you deployed is authorized or deauthorized by an administrator. The webhook is registered with a resource of service app and events of either authorized or deauthorized. Then, when an admin authorizes your service app, you can receive a notification. The payload looks like that, what you see on the right. So it includes, your authorizing org's ID, which is used when retrieving the API access and refresh token too. So a specific kind of service app is for guest-to-guest meetings. And I think Adam mentioned this a little bit in the beginning too. But this combines a new type, of WebEx subscription for guest-only meetings. So it could be for creating generic user accounts for guest-only. And so with these guest-to-guest apps, no participants are required to be licensed WebEx users. that opens up a host of new use cases. So for example, any doctor within a healthcare organization can do virtual consultations with patients and their families without ever needing to log into Webex or making their patients, sign up and log into Webex. Guest accounts can be persistent using a guest ID. So when people return to use the app, they can remember their past interactions, or it could be ephemeral, the accounts that reset after the interaction is complete. We also have a special sandbox available for all developers to test and use this feature right away. So no subscription required. It's already built into the sandbox. And some of you may already have known about guest issuer. That's being end of life, and this is going to be the new method for creating guests. So another kind of application that's exclusive to service apps is called Bring Your Own Data Source, or BYODS. That's being rolled out now in the Webex suite. BYODS is mainly for delivering actions and insights back to users. So these data exchanges are conducted over high bandwidth, high fidelity gRPC connections, so lightning quick and secure communications. So for example, BYODS will soon power the feature that will enable type ahead suggestions inside of Webex messaging cards. So this is being rolled out incrementally. Stay tuned for more updates on BYODS in the near term, but we do have a guide up on our developer portal. We are also very pleased to announce a new update for the Webex meeting widget. And now it brings us up to date with the more modern versions of Node.js and React. The Webex meeting widget makes it super easy for developers to embed meetings right inside of a website. It keeps the same look and feel as the Webex app, very light customization options. But now developers can forgo building an app from scratch in the SDK, and they can just get it deployed with a few lines of code. It's really cool. I think Adam knows a little bit about widgets, right? He used to be on the widgets
Just
team.
a little bit. not these new fancy ones though. So we're excited to see all the new features coming out about them.
Yeah. And this is a really cool one. The Webex APIs now support SCIM v2.0 standard. And SCIM stands for System for Cross-Domain Identity Management. So the SCIM protocol is for transmitting digital identity data between domains and simplifies automating user identity provisioning to Webex. So the SCIM APIs include the management of users, groups, and bulk requests. So the automation of capabilities of SCIM, so these reduce manual efforts and errors across applications, increasing efficiency and productivity in your development process. But I'm going to give you a real world example, of something. You can find this inside the Webex App Hub. And this is through our partner ISI Analytics. So when creating a new user, you can do that right inside of the ISI Analytics app. And the SCIM protocol will establish licenses and access to Webex and update all the other organizational apps that are using the SCIM protocol accordingly. So like an HR app, for example. So if I update the HR app, it would get updated in Webex, and vice versa. You update it in Webex, and then you can have it do the same changes inside of your HR app. All users managed in one place. So it's all consistently distributed across all your associated platforms. And you can check those out in the Webex App Hub. But since we're on that topic, there's a bunch of new listings and updates over the past year, right inside of the Webex App Hub, apphub.webex.com. For those who aren't familiar with the Webex App Hub, this is where you can find a lot of pre-built Webex integrations. So from a developer's perspective, this is where they share their integrations and bots with the rest of the Webex community. The Webex App Hub boasts hundreds of integrations with leading applications across different industry verticals such as healthcare, education, finance, retail, manufacturing, whole bunch. The Webex App Hub, again, is at apphub.webex.com. Encourage everybody to go check it out. Try out some of the new bots and integrations that they have there. And as of the Webex app version 44.3, we've integrated the Webex App Hub natively into the Webex app itself. And that allows users to explore and discover apps and bots without need to even leave the Webex application. So, the benefits of the native App Hub instead of the app for developers is their apps and bots actually have much better visibility since they're available for users to find directly inside of the Webex app. But on the user side, there's enhanced search capabilities for easier app and bot discoverability. You can search by app name or bot name. You can filter based on various categories. There's no context switching, since App Hub downloads directly right inside of Webex rather than inside of an external browser. And then users can also try out apps allowed by their organization before trying them in meetings and spaces. So before you want to go live with an app, you can try it out right there. And the Webex for Developers portal, which I mentioned a couple times already, this all had a really, really good year with loads of new content. Our documentation is now better than ever. Clear and concise reference pages are available for all new features and even the updates that are mentioned here. Most of the items here also have dedicated developer guides, make the process for getting started smooth and easy. Many of the 50 plus blogs we published over the past year were introduced, we're introducing these new features, but there's also a variety of how-to blogs, and those often serve as de facto developer guides, to get things going, get started. Here, let me show you how to do this. Well, we also had a dozen or so public webinars over the past year, like we're doing now. Those can be watched right from our webinars page. This webinar is going to be included over there shortly. And then, finally, we also have a bunch of new vidcasts. These are short form videos that show developers how to do something quickly. Anytime I want to learn how to do something quickly, I usually go to the videos first. But you can find all of this and more at developer.webex.com. You can also find our videos on the Webex for Developers playlist on YouTube. This is through the Cisco DevNet channel. So you can go ahead and subscribe there to catch all the latest videos. And then there's also the URL right here. So if you want to get to it quickly, it's CSDO/ all uppercase W4D -playlist. All right, let's do one more Slido poll. Just curious, which of these Webex developer features is most appealing to you?
I was going to say service apps. It's already beat me to it.
Yeah, I know when we were at WebEx 1, I think service apps was definitely one of the more popular topics of conversation.
Yeah, it really enables a whole different workflow, makes things much easier for our developers, where we previously would have people spinning up like service accounts. If they, instead of having to have an admin do things, they would spin up their own service account within their own directory. But now you don't even need to do that. So now you can use our virtual admins through our service apps.
Yeah, there's a great developer guide for service apps. If you don't have a developer sandbox already, you can get one of those, and then you can see kind of both sides of things. Like as a developer persona, how do I submit it to the administrator when I deploy it? How do I get my access tokens? And then on the administrator side, you can see, exactly where they're going to be authorizing the service app, things like that. So you get the full experience using the sandbox.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Converge recordings is exciting too. I know we've had a lot of people wanting to know they love our meetings recordings and they want to use that for calling. So we've got that available for them, and now we've got APIs for them, and even more coming soon. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I think the APIs, with conversion recordings go hand in hand. You have real tight control over your own recordings.
Yep.
All right.
Guest
Okay,
to
and with
guest,
that,
can't wait to see what people are. Oh, sorry, I can't wait to see what people are building with guest to guest. That's going to be exciting. These, hostless meetings that you don't have to have any sort of accounts, and just spinning up a programmable video. So it's going to be really neat to see.
yeah, and using basically the same the same technology for our regular WebEx meetings. So really high quality video.
Yeah.
And be sure to check out all these resources that are up here for even more updates. Again, the WebEx Contact Center has their own developer portal. We are in the process of getting things unified under one developer banner, starting with the recently merged developer community forums. Those now include both WebEx and the WebEx Contact Center. The WebEx Contact Center forums used to be in a separate DevNet community. So it's now merged under ours. So it's all under the same community forum now. And we have also added more samples in our GitHub and things like that. So be sure to check out all of our GitHub pages. It's a great way to get started, so you don't have to, start from square one. Maybe you're going to find the type of app you can build, a sample of it, and then you can just kind of extend it from there.
WebEx community on GitHub is pretty great too. Like, we've got that Python SDK it's just been user driven. They've been building on that, adding features left and right. So it's really exciting to see people building that on top of that Python SDK. And thank you for all the contributors out there too. They're helping build that SDK.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of Python enthusiasts. So yeah, we're really happy to get that one in there. So I don't think we have any questions, do we, Adam?
No, no questions came in. If you'd like, we can you can throw your questions in here and we'll throw them up on the community, or just head over to the community right now and post your questions. But we really appreciate you joining in for the first webinar of 2025.
Yes, thank you very much. And with that, have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.